Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor Live, and I think we timed it just right for the conclusion of President Trump's speech in my home city. In fact, a place in my home city I'm very familiar with, Croton Park. We used to have night out against crime in Croton Park. Remember, Jake? It was in August, and crowd similar to that. And what were they there for? They were there because there was so much crime in New York that people rebelled against it. And that's how they did the very unusual thing of electing only the third Republican mayor in the 20th century and only the second to remain a Republican, me. And I was very, very happy to see both the crowds, the reception for a great president, and the fact that the speech was a very, very positive, uplifting speech. I mean, this is a very, very strange presidential election. Generally, we have, when we get to this stage, the potential candidates, the candidates really, we have two people discussing issues. I'm going to lower taxes, raise taxes. I'm going to build up the military. I'm going to put more money into social programs. Well, this is a one-sided race. The only person capable of talking about issues is Donald Trump. Can you imagine? Can you possibly imagine in a million years Joe Biden giving that speech? First of all, I apparently he'd have to sit down to give it because he's going to have to sit down during the debate. I don't think I would have agreed to that. I would have said, no, let him stand for as long as he can. And when he wants to go down like Hillary did in 2016, let everybody watch him go down. The American people have been enormously tolerant of having a president without a brain for some time now. And it's about time that we really face up to the fact that this man without a brain has killed an awful lot of people. So Croton Park is sort of in the center of the Bronx. It's not very close to Yankee Stadium, which is sad. It should be closer. But it's a very, very nice place. It's a relatively small park for New York. New York has a lot of parks. And that's why you saw whatever the number of people, I don't know if it's 2,000, 3,000. If he went, for example, to the Great Lawn of Central Park, I don't have any doubt he would have gotten 400,000 or 500,000 people. I have no doubt about it. The reality is that even New Yorkers, despite all of the propaganda, all of the brainwashing, they can see something in him that they desperately need right now. We don't always need this. I mean, well, let's put it this way. We always need it, but we don't always know we need it. But we are desperate for leadership. We haven't had leadership since he left the Oval Office. We've had the worst presidency, as he keeps repeating quite accurately, in the history of this country. I can't imagine a presidency worse than this, even with the things that we don't know about prior presidents that are lost to history. Can you imagine any president having taken this much money in bribes? I believe the amount of money that Spiro Agnew was given in the White House that got him thrown out of the vice presidency was $5,000. I convicted a congressman as a young assistant U.S. attorney. It was really the beginning of my career because I broke him down on the witness stand and got him to confess. It was a $40,000 bribe. I mean, I'm almost embarrassed. A $40,000 bribe. This president sitting in the White House took millions, 31 million from China, at least. 20 million from Ukraine, at least. The 3.5 million from Moscow was tip of the iceberg. And think about who he was taking them from. 2 out of the 3 enemies of the United States. Now, can you imagine if during the whole war, any one of these presidents had taken $3.5 million from the Soviet Union? Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Reagan, on and on, right? What would have happened? They'd have been thrown out of office. Republicans would have walked out on the Republicans. Democrats would have walked out on the Democrats, because those people loved America more than whatever it is that corrupts them. And it corrupts different one of these Democrats differently. Some of them are corrupted by money. They're making money like Biden is making money. The president is speaking in a city that may be one of the most corrupt in the country. I believe it is. If you look at it in terms of the amount of bribes and the kickbacks, if you just compare budgets, you have to realize that New York spends so much more than anybody else. That money must be going somewhere. And it's not going to make the city beautiful, because the city looks awful. The budget of New York City is the same as the budget of the state of Florida. The state of Florida has 21, 22 million people. New York City has 8. The budget of the state of New York is more than twice the state of Florida. The state of Florida has 2 million more people. How could New York be spending 2 and 3 times what Florida is spending, sometimes on the same thing? Because we build a great deal of room for kickbacks, bribes, selling of public office. And it's the reason why our judiciary is as corrupt as it is. What you're seeing in these trials of Donald Trump, and the only good thing about them is the world is getting to see just how corrupt the New York Supreme Court in Manhattan is. They're selected by political hacks, political bosses. The present political boss has been there 19 years. His name is Keith Wright. His father was a Democratic hack, except he was a judge. And Mayor Koch, who was an independent Democratic mayor, named him Let Him Loose Bruce, because long before these present criminal coddling judges, Koch had them. And Wright's father was one of the worst crazy, insane progressives who let scores of criminals out on the street to hurt us. And that's the mentality that you have. So I'm so glad that President Trump showed that he can go anywhere, he can speak to anyone, they'll listen to his message, and his message is a very, very positive one. Of course, at the beginning, he pointed out the obvious about this failed administration. You can't not do that. It would sound like you came from Mars if you came there and just gave a Pollyannish speech. America is in the worst condition it's been in my lifetime. America is, in certain respects, no different than a fascist state or a communist state, or take out the Holocaust and some of the excesses, a Nazi state. A place like New York City is, in fact, a communist enterprise. Its economy is a communist economy, and its government is run for the good of the Democrat Party and no one else. Its school system is run for the good of the people who work for the school system. The children are fodder. This is our only chance, the man that you were watching, Donald Trump. It's a tragedy that we've come to this, because this election becomes so darn important. I don't think there's a return from this election. I think if we go down the Biden road, we're gone. We become, America's gone. Our nationality is gone. Do you realize that by opening the border the way he has, Well, the whole purpose of that is a Marxist doctrine. It's to destroy American nationality. Do you remember the Cultural Revolution in China? And do you know what it was? The Cultural Revolution, Mao borrowed right out of Marx. Communists don't believe in an America, a Russia, a China. They believe in loyalty to the party. So they wipe out your nationality. So they wiped out Chinese culture. That's why there's no longer Chinese opera or dance or trying to be revived by dissident Chinese. But it's gone. Same thing in Russia. And that's what they're doing to us. You think those statues were being taken down just for fun? You think they introduced that whole kneeling during the national anthem for fun? It doesn't spread across an entire country for fun. You got to have money to spread it across an entire country. Do you think they organized the attacks on Thomas Jefferson and James Madison and George Washington and Christopher Columbus for the heck of it? Right out of the Marxist playbook on how you destroy a nation. And just think of how far they've come. God is gone. God is gone. I'm going to tell you later about a little teeny case in New Jersey in which they won't even allow them a couple hours on a Sunday morning to use a beach they've been using for 150 years to have a prayer service. They want to take that away from them because every Marxist knows how dangerous God is. Or what about the second principle of Marxism? Get the children and get them early. Marx recommended it too. You know who followed that very, very strictly? Hitler and Stalin. Get the kids at 2, turn them against the parents, and make them property of the state. Isn't that what they're doing under Biden? Biden favors transgender, well, I don't know what you call it, transgender education. I consider it moral perversion. I consider it so disgusting it's hard to even repeat. But there are protections now in New York so that a child can get mutilated without the permission of the parents, without even notifying the parents. So who does the child belong to? The state. Karl Marx achieved that also. So President Donald Trump is running at a time in which, as I've told him personally, it's more important that we have him than he have us. I think the only person who has the understanding of this and the full depth of it is Donald Trump, because he lived through it and he got to see it. He got to see the final ring of Dante's Inferno. Not many people got to see the final ring of Dante's Inferno. I didn't think it was as deep as it was, but boy, it sure is deep, and they are sure evil. The speech was, of course, also entertaining. I just love that snake story. I don't know why I do. I hear it all the time. And I even opt for the long version. What about you, Ted?
I was just going to say, do you prefer the long or the short version?
Oh, come on. Look, we've listened to him do it enough times. We know what he was really into it today.
Yeah.
What better place to talk about snakes than New York? My God, there are so many snakes in the Democrat Party in New York. I mean, the Democrat Party, by the way, excuse me, because I know I'm talking way beyond New York. You're not as bad outside New York. It's always been more corrupt than the rest of the party. It goes back to Boss Tweed. Just to tell you, they really still practice Boss Tweed politics. They named a courthouse after him. They named a courthouse after the most crooked politician in the history of the city. So they're not even subtle. They're not even subtle about it. And I was glad he mentioned the students of James Madison High School, because I went crazy when I found that out. They were thrown out of school so migrants could use their school, and they were put on remote education. We know that what that does to kids. That's because of Biden's open border and Adams' super sanctuary city, where he gives people credit cards who are not people like you and me or homeless people or veterans. No, illegal aliens who haven't even been vetted at the border. So I was glad to see that the president laid out a package to change it. The package is pretty simple to stay and really hard to do. Deport them. Every single one of them has to be thrown out of this country for the simple reason that we don't know who they are. The Chinese that come in illegally complained about 13 months ago that it was taking too long for them to get in. Think about that. Illegal Chinese are complaining that it's taking them too long to get in. So Biden and Blinken and all of the other communists in the administration reduced it to 4 questions. You're going to vet people coming from our biggest enemy that have the most advanced intelligence system in the world, that have actually set up police stations in New York, have been able to grab people here and take them back to China, or go and threaten them about what was going to happen to their families in China. You're going to vet them with 4 questions? Maybe one of them is, are you a spy? No, sir. I know spy. He told you about Venezuela. Venezuela, I know really, really well. Did a lot of security work in South America. That's an astounding reduction in crime. I had always thought I had the biggest reduction in crime anywhere. Venezuela is going to beat me. But of course, I didn't have the luxury of emptying out my prisons, my jails, and sending them to a sucker country. That's what they're doing. So when the president is criticized for criticizing these immigrants, he has every right to. And they are committing crime after crime after crime. So we will be back, and we're going to tell you about one of them. And there are a whole lot of other things we've got to cover that are being withheld from you by the crooked media that holds back just about all of the important information you need to know to help save this country. We'll be right back. And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. You can order now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting rudy.coffee. By supporting Rudy Coffee, you're not just treating yourself to exceptional coffee, you're also supporting our cause, the cause of truth, justice, and American democracy. You'll also be supporting the Call to Action nonprofit, which is devoted to helping veterans and first responders. So you can make a difference and taste the difference by ordering today at rudy.coffee. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. And don't forget Rudy's Coffee. Order it now. You won't get it until about the beginning of June. But I think by the beginning of June, there's going to be a delay. So I would probably have it delivered now, completely organic, completely safe. And even if you like decaffeinated coffee, it's done without chemicals. It's done with a water process to take the caffeine out. So AOC was mentioned, I think, by that wonderful Ruben Gomez. You should know that Ruben is a 30-year friend of mine and one of my biggest supporters as a Democrat when I ran for mayor. So this pretty consistent guy, the Reverend, and he's got quite a following. But he took off after AOC, who is honestly is an embarrassment to New Yorkers. not only because she's so stupidly liberal and communist, but because she's so stupid. So now let's listen to stupid AOC.
And try to fleece him out of every dollar that they have to fund his own legal fees. And by the way, he's doing it in the South Bronx, not to make a point, but because he's got court. And the man practically has the legal version of an ankle bracelet around him, and he can't leave the 5 boroughs because he always has to be in court. And so it is truly an embarrassment to him. And I am looking forward to the response of everyday Bronxites talking about how they feel about him coming to their backyard.
How do you think he'll be received?
I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if he's going to bus in.
Be the dumbest one. Also, the other genius that he has working for him is KJP. So KJP asked a question, and I'd like to answer the question yesterday, which also indicates that she is among the large number of featherbrains surrounding the man with no brain. Shall we play KJP?
Here it is.
Do something to solve the problem or continue to use it as a political issue. The president has the authority to do something about this unilaterally. Congress is in a divided government right now. Why isn't he doing anything?
Why should we do it in a legislative way? And let's not forget that negotiated.
I know, to undo some of.
Wait.
By KJP, because he did it unilaterally already. He signed 50 executive orders canceling all of Trump's executive orders that set up a secure border. So the reason he should do it unilaterally is because he did the damage unilaterally, and he can quickly correct the damage unilaterally. So do you not understand that? Or is this, again, a lie? Or is it just your very weak brain? I mean, it's really ridiculous. All he has to do is sign an order and close the border. All he has to do is sign an order and reestablish remain in Mexico. And we've got an emergency going on. And if you want to see the scope, try numbers. Trump's last year, 400,000 people came in and were vetted, of which a percentage of about 40% got in. Last year, under Biden, 3.5 million came in, not 400,000, and 80% came in. And they were asked about 1/10 of the questions, and they were held for about 1/10 of the time that the people that Trump let in. So in the case of the people that Trump let in, I'm not saying that criminals didn't sneak in and a certain number of them were criminals, but we can be pretty sure that a good number of them weren't. Under Biden, we have no idea. We have the slightest idea because we don't vet them. We just rush them through because there are so many of them. That also produces the gotaways. Last year, 375,000 of them. The gotaways are people that we see, but we don't know who they are. They could just be, they could be mass murderers. We wouldn't know. And then there's a third category, and those are the people that we don't see at all, but they come in. And those are probably the most dangerous of all, because those are your high-value aliens who are able and capable of paying the cartels enormous amounts of money to come in. So if they're going to bring in an enormously valuable amount of fentanyl, they're not going to trust it to somebody getting caught. They're going to bring it in on those parts of the border where the cartels, because they have as many or more resources than we do, can figure out the Border Patrol is 100 miles away or 200 miles away. And the busier you keep them, the more you're going to bring people in like that. There isn't even a good estimate of that number. It could be 1 million, it could be 3 million. So we take 1.5 million for that number. We take the other numbers. We got about 10 million people here since the day the crooked election ended and Biden was put into office. And we have no idea who they are, but we do know they're committing crimes left and right. And we have the highest amount now of human trafficking in women and children of any country in the world. Thank you, Joe Biden. That is only because of him. And it's only because we made the terrible mistake of making him president. Or maybe we didn't make that mistake. I'd like to think we actually weren't that dumb and they did cheat. Because if they didn't cheat, we elected him. It's going to be quite a debate. Now Biden is asking, well, first thing he asked for was no audience. Politicians love audiences. No audience. Does it get him nervous? Now he wants to sit. He wants to sit down during the debate. I know. Pretty soon, we're going to have intravenous machines brought in for him. I mean, isn't this? Aren't all of these conditions that he places on it? Isn't it for any logical person a sensible admission that he is completely unfit to carry out any responsible function? The prosecutor who should have prosecuted him for violating the laws with regard to classified material said that he's incapable of being prosecuted. And he put it really stupidly, and because he's a big ass licker. And not a prosecutor. He's a completely please, don't get all caught up in the fact that Herr found that he committed these crimes, but he just, is not capable of being tried. He left out about half the things that Biden did. But to say that Biden, shouldn't be tried because the jury is going to think he can't remember, and the jury is going to think that he's a foolish old man. I mean, I'm going to go tell that to. I'm going to go tell that to Fanny the Hoe and her boyfriend and see what they say. I'm going to say I'm a foolish old man. How about the foolish old man defense? Where the hell did that one come from? But he does lay out that it's a lot worse than foolish old man. He says in his report, he couldn't remember within 3 years when he had been vice president. Within 3 years. He couldn't remember within 2 or 3 years when his son died. Now he is fighting like hell to cover up the video recordings of that interview. Because the video recordings of that interview will sound like he sounded yesterday, where he couldn't pronounce 2 words in a row correctly and got himself so jumbled up, it looked like they were going to carry him off the stage. You're going to see that on that recording. And you're going to see him lie. You probably have a pretty good instinct for picking out liars. You're going to see him lie time after time after time. And you're going to see a man who talks like a man with an advanced case of dementia, which is what he has. And they are fighting to keep it from you. They have no right to do it. this idea of presidential immunity, he waived when he let the transcript be published. So there's no difference in terms of the secrecy of it as between the transcript and the tape, unless they doctored the transcript. Now, that would not be unusual because it was revealed today that one of Dr. Fauci's most trusted subordinates eliminated 30,000 emails. So I guess he wouldn't be prosecuted because Hillary had 33,000 that she eliminated, and that wasn't a crime. But you know what those 30,000 emails are. Those 30,000 emails explain to you how this was a con job so that Fauci could make millions and Moderna could make billions and Pfizer. Not giving a damn how many millions they killed. This is a horrible, horrible scandal, which if we don't figure out, we could live through again. And our unwillingness to take it back to China, well, you know where that comes from. China paid for that. Just like they paid for our closing down the air base 400 miles from China. Who would take out an air base 400 miles from China than a president who was bribed? Certainly not a president who was loyal to the United States. Certainly not Donald Trump. I hope he takes that Bagram air base right back. Just goes in there and takes it right back. Maybe they still have some of the $85 billion worth of arms that we gave the Taliban. We get some of that back too. Yesterday, the Israeli government published for the second time a video of 5 members of the IDF, females, all under the age of 20, who were captured by Hamas, kidnapped by Hamas at 9 o'clock in the morning on October 7th in a city near the northern part of Gaza, maybe 3 miles from Gaza, Israeli city. And what it shows is that the soldiers took them, brutalized them, beat them up. You see these young ladies with faces that are all scarred, some of them, not all. You hear them talk about raping them, having babies with them. This is not what the Israeli army is doing in Gaza. The Israeli army is conducting a defensive war based on the rules of war, probably way beyond the rules of war, per capita killing fewer civilians than we ever did. These people are animals, and they were trained to be animals from the day they were born. When we come back, we're going to show you a little of that. So we ask you to, be careful, and if you're sensitive, don't watch it, or don't have the children watch it. But those of you who want to see what the hell's going on, take a look at it. We'll be right back.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50%, and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Hello, this is Rudy Giuliani, America's Mayor Live. So as I said before, this is a graphic video. Having seen so many of these, it's hard for me to evaluate I would just say if you're sensitive and if it's going to bother you, don't watch it. And if children are around, probably not. Although all of us have seen worse than this, but it gives you an idea of what the Hamas and the Palestinians are like. And I lump Hamas with the Palestinians because the separation of the two is propaganda. Hamas, Palestinians elected Hamas, and 85% supported what they did on October 7. And by the way, starting at 2 years old, they're trained to kill Jews. Oh, and they're trained to kill you and me. And Biden wants to bring them into this country.
Sit down. ولك اخواتنا ماتوا من وراك وانا لم اخذكم كلكم.
That's what you mean?
What? Again.
Who you want to call? What?
Number again.
My friend who's Gaza. Why?
I swear.
What?
Where from?
No.
رجعنا ان شاء الله.
هاي السماء هاي الهم. لا طلع ايوه طلع.
Well, that's a pretty horrible thing to see. I'm going to tell you the names of the young ladies because they deserve to be mentioned. By the way, they are still hostages. And it is among so many outrages, it's impossible to list them all, that the President of the United States doesn't seem to give a damn about these hostages. He cares so little that the other day he named a hostage in the audience as if the hostage was in the audience. The person isn't in the audience. The person is in Gaza. That's like when he was looking for the dead congresswoman in the audience, or he thought he saw Franklin Roosevelt reading the funny papers on television, but there was no television when Franklin Roosevelt was president. How much do we have to endure from this man? How much does America have to endure before it simply says he is way beyond incompetent to be president? Well, we're going to go to Cara Castronova, who is a who is a candidate in New York in the Republican primary for the Senate, but she's also a news reporter for Newsmax. And she was at the rally, and she is one of the reasons there is a rally. Cara,
you're live. You're on with the mayor. Cara Castronova, you're on with the mayor. Tell us about the rally.
It was awesome. It was magical. There was crazy energy here. It was very positive. There were a lot of young kids who were walking by, kind of curious to see what was going on, who all said they were open-minded to hearing President Trump's message. So that was really, really kind of nice to see. A lot of 15 and 16 and 17-year-olds, all of them kind of saying F Joe Biden at the same time. We got a lot of good footage. So they really can't stand Joe Biden, and they're very open to Trump. And they all waited in line. The line was so long, half the crowd did not get in.
There must have been hundreds of thousands.
Right. It was sad because so many people didn't get in. That was the frustration. They were all young kids from the Bronx. And not just young kids, a lot of people. But it was just frustrating to see how many people didn't get in to see President Trump speak. And some of them said they were waiting for 10 hours.
Well, how did it feel to see your dream come true. What was it, about a month and a half ago? You went up to the South Bronx and you interviewed people and you were shocked at how much support that Trump had. Remember?
Yes, I mean, to me, it was really surreal. And this was back in Christmas when I did my viral Bronx pieces with President Trump, when I, went out to the Bronx and talked to regular people and was completely shocked to see how many people were very, very much saying, make America great again, make the Bronx great again. They're saying, make America great again in Spanish today. And Trump, vente, vente, cuatro, I hope I'm saying that right, which is Trump 2024 in Spanish. A lot of people were saying that today. So, to be here today and see this rally finally come to life that we've all been hearing about for a couple months now, Trump saying that he's going to come to the Bronx, was really kind of magical. And you know what? I drove in my car from Long Island, and driving down the street and seeing all the vendors selling the Trump gear was really surreal. Like, I keep using that word, but just seeing Trump hats, seeing Trump flags, seeing Trump t-shirts on the corner where the vendors are all selling them for, $10 and trying to make some money as they're selling bottled water and everything else that they sell here in the Bronx was really kind of cool. I'm like, wow, I got to get a picture of this. This is pretty magical.
A lot of American flags.
Trump flags, all Trump flags, MAGA flags. Yeah, like, I'm serious. On the corner, people were selling them. People were selling merchandise. A lot of entrepreneurs here in the Bronx. Yeah.
Send it over, guys, and we'll try to play it. That voice you hear is, of course, our good friend Rob. Not just friend; he's a part of the show. How many people would you guys say? Let's say, give us a heads up.
It's. I know the area. We should explain first.
And that half of the crowd didn't get in. I mean, people were packed like sardines in that line, trying to get through literally what was one scanner. So you're trying to get.
The mayor knows this part. So the mayor.
Oh, the mayor knows it.
Of that park.
The mayor knows every inch of that park.
So, Mayor, So give us some background on the park. They're saying a lot of people couldn't get in, but you wanted us to keep something in mind.
I want people to realize it's a constricted area. It's a highly constricted area that he had to work in. It's basically here. It's basically here, if you can see it on the map, right there. So you had to get the people into there. People over here wouldn't see it. So how many? 2,000? Oh, you mean were there? But how many got to see him?
I'm telling you, there were people that didn't get in that got in.
Put Rob back on. Rob told us 100,000. I want to hear from Rob.
No. Can't be. You couldn't get 100,000 in.
More. There were a lot of people that came and they realized they were.
Rob's a great guy, but he never would have been part of my police department helicopter.
Well, we love you both. Thank you for. Go ahead, Kara. Give us a message. Tell people what you. Go ahead.
I was going to say I expected there being more counter protesters, but they were just like a couple outlier counter protesters. Most of the day was very positive.
We
didn't.
Must not have cleared.
We didn't hear them.
That was very interesting. I thought that there was very few counter protesters.
We didn't hear any counter protesters, so they couldn't have been too many.
You could tell there were a couple of whatever paid provocateurs, but there was very few compared to what I usually see at a Trump rally. And we're in the Bronx.
Yeah, they made very little headway, if any at all. Nothing.
Rob, we should have given you a little money so you could cash some of their checks from Soros, so we had it as evidence, right? They probably got 50, $100. We could have sprung for that.
I got some great footage for you guys for tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, Kara, congratulations. By the way, I don't know that everyone knows the fact that you were the first one to break this. You went up to the South Bronx thinking you would get a mixed reaction, and you came back and you said everybody was for Trump.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't believe you. They even asked you, did you time it or did you? And you said, no. I was looking for people that would criticize. I couldn't find anybody.
Right. No,
and then you were able to get that to the campaign. And well, thank you, Kara.
I think we should put Rob in charge of head counts for Trump rallies.
Trump would take him in a minute if he does that. Please don't tell the president that it's 1 million people.
I can't get it.
Okay. Give you, Rob.
You tell him 1 million, he'll say 2.
This whole park is swollen up.
Okay. All right.
People couldn't even get in, I think, actually.
A vast majority were stuck outside. I think you're right, Rob.
But Rob, great job.
There was still a lot of people there as well, and Trump looked beautiful. Oh my God, the speech was great. He was glimmering in the sunlight. There's a beautiful.
No, I thought the speech was one of his better speeches. Very issue oriented for that kind of speech too. He went over the things he would do as president. He'd close the border. He'd throw them out. I thought it was very, very good. We're going to have to break now, and I want to thank you very, very much for covering it, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Be safe now, huh?
I think we know who needs to be counting these.
Oh, Rob we like his enthusiasm.
Well, that was great. So Mayor, how about we take a quick break and then we can come back and maybe talk with, you got a lively audience tonight.
Yeah, we take some questions, right?
Yes, sir. So we'll be right back after these messages. Well, it's just going to be one message. All right.
Delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. This is Rudy Giuliani back with America's Mayor Live. We have a very, very, very nice audience, and we'd like to see if they have some questions.
Hi, Mayor. I just have a question more about like how, when you are dealing with an administration, how you guys deal with the bureaucracy of these organizations that kind of are being run by the government. How much are they in control, and how much does the administration control them? I know it's more of a broad question, but I don't know.
It's a very good question, and it's a critical question. The bureaucracies have, I'm not going to say total control, but critical control. And I think that President Trump knew that going in 2016, and so did I, but I don't think ever realizing the degree to which they control. And not only that, they'll undercut. So a president can make a change and they'll reverse the change and do whatever the hell they want. I had experience with 2 bureaucracies, one that wasn't so bad and one that was terrible, the State Department and the Justice Department. The State Department has its own foreign policy. Doesn't matter who the president is. They're all way smarter than the president. They know a lot more, and they just do whatever the hell they want. And then if you can corrupt them with a lobbyist or some other thing, they're just out of control. And there really hasn't been a good reform of the State Department in a very, very long time, probably since George Shultz was there. I wanted to be Secretary of State, actually, in the first administration, by and large, to kick him out. I would have worked with a skeleton force. All you need in a country, I mean, aside from the people that do visas and that sort of thing, all I would need in any country are 2 or 3 people to tell me what's going on there. And if I didn't know myself, I shouldn't be Secretary of State. And then you could start building up people. That's how I rebuilt police departments like in Colombia. I fired everybody and hired anew and taught them our rules and what we wanted. That has to be done. And now he's got to go in. In his second administration, I asked him to make me his special assistant for 1 year, and I would fire everyone. And they could all hate me, and then I would go. Because I really felt he had to do a major clean out. When I became mayor of New York, I got rid of 9,000 to 11,000 people. And I was being told, the government wasn't going to run. We were going to be unable to function. And of course, we function better. Think about how the government functions when we have a government shutdown. Better. There is an enormous amount of useless work. And then there's an enormous amount of ideologically directed work. And most of that ideological direction is is Marxist. They are either knowing or brainwashed Marxists, and they're following Marxist policy. And if you know Marx, you can almost take what they're doing back to some chapter in Marx and show it to them. You see, you're doing exactly what Marx told you to do.
And we have another question.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, Joseph Hernandez, I split my time between Palm Beach and New York, and humongous fan of the work you did in New York. And I have a hypothetical for you, if I may. The hypothetical is, let's say you get elected mayor of New York City tomorrow morning. What 3 things will you do to clean up that city? And please give us some insights into how you would bring that it was.
Well, the first thing I would do is I would meet with the police department and restore their morale. And I think by getting elected, I would have restored their morale. I mean, I walk down the streets of the city and I can't go a block without a police officer coming up to me and complaining to me about how difficult his job is. And I would explain that we'd go back to the old rules of I support you and you get the benefit of the doubt. And when you make a mistake or something that is alleged to be a mistake, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt the way we presume people innocent. And if you're proven to have done something really bad, then I'm going to have to punish you really bad. But if not, I'm not going to throw you to the wolves. And I don't really give a damn what the political consequences of it are. And when you prove that to them 1 or 2 times, you end up with a police department that will do anything for you. And let me tell you the difference between a police department with morale and one without morale. Police department today, knowing they get criticized for everything, and should they hit somebody too hard, they may lose their job. The 2 police officers are riding in the police car, and they get a call about a robbery in progress. Now, I have a choice as a police officer, and you'll never know, of rushing there and presumably getting there before the robbery is over. And that's walking into harm's way. Or I can delay just a little, keep my radio open. Robberies happen real quick. The robbers are gone. I come in, I write up a report, give it to the detectives, and we never catch the robber. A lot of that is going on right now. You think about these people. There's a man now that's going to be prosecuted again for self-defense. These 2 people came in, started to cause trouble in his store. He threw them out. When they came out, the guy started pummeling him and hitting him. And the guy had a gun, a legal gun, the store owner. So he took the legal gun and pistol whipped him with it, but the gun went off. And now they're trying him for the more serious crime. But they were trying to rob his store. In the old days, a good chance the cops would have been there before those guys were out of that store and arrested them. I tried to train them to prevent crime rather than to just record crime. I always thought, because I had spent, 20 years in law enforcement, I had written about it, I had been on studies. It seemed to me the thing wrong with policing was we measured it by arrests. But arrests are a failure. The damage has already been done to the citizenry. What's the real objective of policing? It's to prevent crime. So how do I get my police officers to start thinking about preventing crime? And I did that with the CompStat program. So we measured crime very, very as accurately as we could. Eventually, by using computers, it became really masterful. And we could get a pretty good sense of what kind of an impact a police officer was having. Not so much by how many people he arrested, but what was happening to crime. Was crime going down under his command? Was crime going down or was crime going up? And if crime was going up, we wouldn't necessarily fire him. We'd find out why. What was somebody else doing that he wasn't doing? And eventually, within about 2 or 3 years, we turned them into thinking about strategies to reduce crime. And in a city as big as New York, you have to decentralize that, because the strategy to reduce crime in South Brooklyn can be very, very different than the strategy to reduce crime in Northern Bronx. In one place, you could be thinking about auto theft. In another, you might be thinking about home break-ins. In another, you're thinking about drugs. And they're all different strategies. But you want the focus to be on, not that you're going to reduce every crime, but you want the focus to be on how can we prevent the crime. And in the case of an ongoing crime, it means getting the cop there before the crime's over. But that's dangerous. A cop walks in the middle of a shooting, he can get killed, or he can mistakenly kill somebody. And he can mistakenly kill the wrong person. You're walking into a chaotic situation, and there's more of a chance things are going to go wrong. So when cops are scared for their job, they lay back. Unless they are just super on their own brave people, of which maybe that's 10%, 15%. Most are just average, good human beings. And it's like an army. An army with morale can outperform the numbers, the armaments, the odds. An army without morale can be gigantic and get defeated. We are now without morale. The New York City Police Department is down to the lowest number it's had since 1990. And its morale is, why do anything? We just get criticized by our bosses, and the public turns on them in a second, because nobody is doing anything to try to enhance their reputation. One of the first things I did was to pick a few things where they could be victors. Like we had squeegee men in New York who'd come up to your car and wash it and require you to pay them. And police commissioner and I decided, let's find out how many there are. Let's get rid of them. Like, just get rid of them. And we figured out that by flooding, there were only less than 1,000. So by flooding them for 3-4 weeks, they miraculously disappeared. Half of them turned out to be violent criminals with records. So we got a benefit that way. But it created a quick lift in, wow, we can actually do something. Look at that. This has been bothering us for 20 years, and we were able to fix it. And then we fixed, I think that the conditions of a community tell you a lot about how people are going to act. Like graffiti. You allow graffiti on other people's property, that's vandalism. And you're advertising it, and you're saying it's okay. So we made a tremendous effort to remove vandalism, and we would get groups to do it. The whole idea was, when you see a subway train, those elevated trains coming through, and a lot of them in the Bronx, just all filled with graffiti, everybody thinks of a city that's out of control. Now you see a nice, clean subway train, used to have graffiti, doesn't have it. You start thinking about, oh, gee, the city's changed. Maybe I have to change too. Unfortunately, and Mayor Bloomberg and Ray Kelly carried that on for 12 years. Unfortunately, de Blasio was an anarchist and a communist. And Adams is, among other things, he's not smart enough to understand everything I just said to you. He wouldn't be able to follow it, nor would he have the attention. He had the attention to do it, because he'd have to leave to go to a nightclub or go get a new custom-made suit, or give out gigantic no-bid contracts to his friends. He's spending more on homelessness than any place in the country because he's giving all the contracts and no bids. And you take over the homeless, your salary's $1 million a year. And they're all pals of his. So one of the great changes you can make if you get elected independently is you can take that machine, that Democratic machine, and just basically say, go to hell. As Jake knows, they used to attack me all the time. But I didn't care. They never did anything for me or would do anything for me.
Well, we have another question from a longtime listener right here. Michael.
Hello, Rudy. Good afternoon. Good evening. I think there's a story that's evolving related to Trump in New York that I didn't foresee, and I don't know if you did. But, you know, he goes in there and Marchant just, as you've chronicled, stacks the deck against him. He can't win. He picks a jury that nobody likes. But yet he goes to a bodega and gets an incredibly warm response. He goes to a fire station and they love him. And then tonight, so many people showed up that are supposedly lifelong Democrats that have given up on the Democratic Party. They have no faith, no trust in them anymore, and they've come out to support Donald Trump. And I think that that tells us where a lot of America stands, but the polls don't necessarily reflect it. And how, if I'm correct, does the Republican Party take what we're seeing right there and use that to our advantage going into the elections? Thank you.
I think your observation is a very, very good one. I mean, people look at it as, does this show he has an opportunity to win in New York? Not yet. And there's a way to, he is only behind by 9%, but it's a big, big leap. As Jake can tell you, it's very hard for a Republican to win New York. But this did him a world of good in the rest of the country. To see the reaction of what would be considered to be, by a lot of the country, brainwashed Democrats responding to Trump gives a great deal of enthusiasm to others, including minorities in other parts of the country. I mean, he's in some polls, he is leading Biden in the Hispanic vote. Some he's behind, but he's only behind by 4 or 5%. And in the black vote, he's up 22% over where he was before. Even more important, Biden is down 25%. I don't know what's going to happen. I think the Hispanic vote, I wouldn't be totally shocked if he won it. If he just went to about 51%. I'd be shocked if he got anything less than 47 or 48, which would win the election for him. What I really expect to see is Biden's black vote come down and there'd be a heavy black non-vote. And he'll probably get something around his 20%. Because I think that Biden has been a terrible, terrible president for blacks and for Hispanics. All of his interest is in illegal migrants. And at one time that resounded a bit in the Hispanic community because they were all from Mexico. So there was a certain feeling of simpatico with them. But there aren't many from Mexico anymore. They're coming in from Africa, Russia, China, any country that's an enemy of ours, Islamics. This is the whole world is pouring down on us. And you have to expect a fair number of our enemies are taking advantage of it or they're stupid. So I'm going to take a short break. And then we've got with us a man who has the courage to run for public office, an important one. And I'd like to put him on for a few minutes to introduce himself and to tell us why he's running at a time in which everybody is saying, oh, my God, who wants to run for public office, right? Yeah. We'll be right back, and we'll have our final segment. And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. You can order now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting rudy.coffee. By supporting Rudy Coffee, you're not just treating yourself to exceptional coffee, you're also supporting our cause, the cause of truth, justice, and American democracy. You'll also be supporting the Call to Action nonprofit, which is devoted to helping veterans and first responders, so you can make a difference and taste the difference by ordering today at rudy.coffee. Well, this is a gentleman that I told you is running for public office. He's running right now in the Republican primary, correct?
That's right, sir.
So tell us where you're running and why you're running, and how is it that you want to run with the picture that you see out there, which is not a very pleasant one.
Well, let me start with that last question. You're right. It's not a very pleasant one, and that's exactly why I'm running. Our country is heading in a very terrible direction, and the time has come for good people to stand up and do something about it. I'm terrified, like you said earlier in the show, that we're in danger of losing our country, and we have to take action now. So the seat I'm running for, Mayor, is District 22 in Florida. It's all in Palm Beach County. It's actually President Trump's home district.
Right.
Literally, we're sitting right in the middle of the district right here. This is a seat that's winnable this year. I did run in 2022 against a 5-term incumbent, and in a very bad year for Republicans, I still managed 45% of the vote. A number of things are changing in the district this year that makes it winnable. In fact, we've already made up half that difference just by improved registration. And interesting, you were talking before about Hispanics. 45% of the voters in my district are either Hispanic, Black, or Jewish. And those are 3 voting demographic groups that we think are going to change big this time. I'm feeling very good about my chances this year, sir.
I see you have, God bless you, you have an Israeli flag on with the American flag.
Yeah,
it's a good time to be wearing it.
Yes, sir. So I actually was wearing this pin before October 7. It was one of several I had in a rotation, but it's the only one that I wear right now. And people ask me, well, how long are you going to wear it? Well, until we have something to celebrate. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but not until we have something to celebrate.
Well, I think we have to say the destruction of Hamas.
I think that would
be the elimination of at least one of the terrorist groups that wants to destroy the Israelis and us.
Yeah, and or hostages coming home. But yeah, something those would be all things to celebrate.
So when your primary is kind of late, right? And then the election, of course, is in November.
It's August 20, which is unfortunate. That's the way they do it here in Florida, but it's one of the latest in the country. And you're right. After that, it favors incumbents, unfortunately, because once you have a winner, you then have to scramble very fast to get ready for the general election. And like I said, last time around, I still managed to get to 45%. This time, I'm light years ahead on every possible measure, and much more prepared. And I'll go into that general much better prepared than last time. We're going to win this year.
Boy, that is real. Now, so how do people get in contact with you and send you money and support and volunteers and whatever, and all that stuff that you need to win?
Sure. So I have a website. It's dan4usa.com. That's the number 4 gets you there, dan4usa.com. If you're liking what you're seeing, you can sign up there to volunteer. You can sign up to get on my newsletter. I do not sell my mailing list, so please be encouraged to do so. Of course, the most important thing on any candidate's website is the big red Donate Now button. It's all over the place. So if you're liking what you're seeing, it's dan4usa.com.
Dan Francis. And you don't sell your mailing list. And you got Jake advising you?
All right. We'll have to talk about that one later.
How many times did you sell my mailing list, Jake? No times? Come on.
And we have come on the screen for USA.com. What a great website for someone running for office in America. Dan4USA.com.
And you feel good about it. Well, I would encourage you in that, because 22 ended up strangely being a bad year for us Republicans.
Yes.
Except in New York, where we picked up how many? 4 or 5? Four seats. Yeah. Four. Um, but now, unless I'm missing something, I'm starting to feel not just a wave for Trump, but a very significant anti-Biden, anti-Democrat wave. And I think particularly the fact that the Democrats don't stand up to the extremists in their party. I mean, they're not all like that, but they all lack cojones.
Yeah, I agree.
In fact, maybe at the Democratic convention, they should distribute them.
All right. Well,
some would be impossible. It would be impossible. It's Schumer is too far gone. But I mean, to see a guy turn on his own people like that makes you want to vomit.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, he's a disgrace. I mean, when he was trying to tell Israel what to do in their country, I mean, can you imagine if a Republican said something like that about another country? They'd be vilified.
That's why they make it a crime of some kind or other.
Absolutely.
Smith or Bragg or one of those guys that come up with a new crime.
Yeah, they would invent one and they would campaign on it and get elected on it.
It's criminal to talk to another country.
That's right. That's right.
50 years in jail.
I mean, look.
Where's the statute? I said it's 50 years in jail.
All right, let's get you back in. Let's get you back in the prosecution.
Do you know? And this, of course, this is one of my pet peeves. Do you know that Trump the trial is finished? They're about to sum up to the jury. They haven't yet told him what felony he committed. So I don't know what I would do as a lawyer representing him. I'd have to cover like a couple of thousand felonies. Well, it wasn't in pursuance of this felony or that felony or this felony. The one we think they have in mind, the federal government has decided isn't a felony. Mm-hmm. This is the wackiest damn case that ever existed.
Well, it's wacky, and I think the public sees it. When I go out and talk to voters, people think it's a disgrace. I think it's really. I think they do. I think they see it's
really, this one is not really hard to see. Exactly. And then Cohen goes on there, and at the end of his testimony, he admits to a $60,000 theft, which is 90 times more serious than what they're trying Trump for, even if it were true.
The issues here are ones that I think American people can see.
I don't think I ever had in my long history of prosecuting a guy on the witness stand who admitted to a worse crime than the guy I was prosecuting. Yeah, and if I did, a federal judge would have called my boss and said, "Go get some other. This guy doesn't know what he's doing."
No, there's no. Exactly. You know, I mean, all the flaws here are very apparent and very easy for people to follow. You know, some of the other cases with, for instance, perhaps falsifying, values on properties, that one was a little more esoteric, but this is very straightforward.
But the one that was strange about that was, first of all, the banks don't give a damn because they go determine values. They don't trust anybody or care what you could put down $2 or $20 million. They're going to go find out what it's worth. Right. And they only get angry when they lose money.
Right.
And they made money or didn't lose money, so they had no beef. But the one that really was weird is there were no damages.
Well, exactly.
Nobody lost money.
Well, that's...
So how do you come up with damages? 345 million times zero is zero.
Well, that's right. And like you said, the banks do their own independent evaluations anyway, so it doesn't matter what he puts in his own books. The smart money knows how to protect itself, and they do. And they didn't lose money because these properties were quite valuable.
This has to be fixed. Maybe it's because I'm a lawyer and I devoted my life to prosecution and all, but it seems to me this is maybe the first thing that we have to fix, because you can't have an unfair justice system. And you can't have all these people like those poor January 6 people who are being treated like, it's like the Japanese internment. The descriptions and the pictures I see of the prison they're in. I ran the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I don't ever remember seeing a prison like this in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. It looks like something in the Gulag.
Soviet Russia.
Do we have easily available Fannie Ho's famous admission of where she got the cash?
Yes, Well, I just had to make room for another video, but I'm going to pull it up here in a matter of seconds. So
Because this one astounds me. I want you to react to this. This one really astounds me. Cohen admitting to the 60 grand larceny was one thing, and nothing being done about it is another. And that's even above Bragg's number for not prosecuting. He used to say it was 1,000, but it's now more like 5 or 10 for not prosecuting. He has prosecuted less than half the cases that cops bring in. You have it now. This is Fanny the Hoe. I'm entitled to call her Fanny the Hoe because she wants to put me in jail for the rest of my natural life for being a lawyer, for representing my client based on things I had from other people. But the reason I'm going to play this is that nobody's reacted to it, which gives you a sense of what Daniel Patrick Moynihan once said was defining deviancy down. He said that we're getting so immune to crimes and we don't even notice them when somebody announces them. So she is now explaining during her examination or cross-examination where she came up with the cash to reimburse her boyfriend. So the contention was that he got $1 million, a non-criminal lawyer, a non-litigator, no expertise on the RICO statute. And I'm going to tell you, because he questioned me for 4 hours, a true buffoon. And she generated $1 million for him. And a lot of it was used to go on like 5 vacations that they both went on. So she said she paid her part of it, but there's no record of that because she did it in cash. So now the question is, how does Fanny the Hoe have, you may have some ideas, but it's not what you're thinking. How does Fanny the Hoe come up with this money? She's now going to tell you.
I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign. I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today.
We couldn't hear her.
Oh, we got to play it again so you can. So we're going to play it again so our guests can hear the video.
Well, I want to hear it too because I don't believe it.
I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign. I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today.
Play it again.
She had money from her.
I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign. I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today.
How do you take campaign cash and use it for a vacation?
$1 million? How much? $1 million?
We don't know how much. It would probably be more like about 300,000 or 400,000.
Oh, okay.
But
That's all right then.
But I mean, when she said that, what I'm used to is the judge would say, "What? Did you just say you took money out of your campaign fund for reimburse him for vacations? Geez, we started with a conflict and we're ending with a felony." Nobody is investigating that. Nobody, the press doesn't even pay attention to it. That's a remarkable admission of a woman who, didn't fall very far from, the branch didn't fall very far from the tree. Her father was a Black Panther. And but this gives you an idea how crooked they are in Fulton County, Georgia. So everybody there, including the judge who just got reelected, hears it, and they don't react. Even my lawyer didn't react to it until I told him. Oh, my God, yeah.
They'll bring a case against her.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, plus the lawyers should have been up off their feet. She admitted to it. She admitted to the first out-and-out crime that's been discussed in that case in 6 months. The only real crime. But this is yeah, and of course she got elected. Well, she got the nomination. Yeah, sure. I mean, they fill out the ballots before Election Day, and it's all set. Well, I wish you luck.
Yeah.
It's a difficult road campaigning, but you got a great district. a very diverse district, and it's going to tell us a lot about where the United States is too, how they vote, because it's a pretty.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And it's an important race. In fact, the whole control of the House could come down to this one seat. It's so close. And I know, 2 years ago, no one was watching it on the Republican side. No one thought I could get better than 30%. I shocked them by getting 45%. Coming
Well, this
the way
sounds
it was.
familiar.
And yeah, exactly. And this time around, everyone's looking at it. This is a possible one that could be the diamond in the rough that makes all the difference in the House of Representatives. Thank you, Mayor.
Good luck.
to
How's
see you.
Trump doing in the district?
I think he's doing very well. I mean, when I go around, I've been doing a very big door-to-door campaign. I'm a big grassroots guy. I've already been to the houses of over 3,000 voters in the last couple of months.
Wow.
And it's amazing how much Trump support there is. When I went door-to-door 2 years ago, I would sometimes get arguments about Trump. Now,
No, he's a different. There's no question. There's a whole different view of him, both because of the prosecutions and also he's become he's become a much better candidate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he's just that speech tonight was superb.
And I get challenged a lot.
Couldn't have written it better myself.
He's doing way better on every front, but I'll tell you another thing that is helping him. When people challenge me and say, why do you support President Trump? I say, well, it's very simple. Look at the state of the world 4 years ago. Look at it now. Case closed.
Yeah, I think we had interviews from a lot of the people in the Bronx on this afternoon on my show, and that was their major, the African American and Hispanic people were saying, we're for Trump because things were much better when he was president.
Exactly.
And then they have different things that they focus on. Most of it's the cost of living.
Absolutely. I mean, 4 years ago, we had economic prosperity and world peace.
Yeah.
Look what we have now. I've lost count of how many wars we have. Eggs cost 100% more. The other day, I set a personal record, $97 to fill up my gas tank. And all right, I let it go down to fumes, but still, it $97. I remember 4 years ago, it was $50, $50 to $55. And this is really hurting the working class people and retired people, which I have a lot of in my district as well.
So you know what the jackass is doing? He's taking oil out of the reserve fund, which we may need if we do go to war.
Well, it is a jackass.
That's what it's there for.
It is a jackass move because taking 1 million barrels out, that will not change the price of oil. It's just a feel-good publicity stunt, which is now hurting our country because the strategic reserve was set up so that we would have 3 months of oil in case of a war. They've been working it down, so we don't have that anymore. It's terrible, and it doesn't even help the price of gas. That's the worst part of it.
Well, you are up on the issues, and it sounds like you've got the enthusiasm, and God bless you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Such a pleasure.
Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight. I hope you enjoyed the excerpts we had from the speech and the discussion. We'll be back tomorrow night. I'm sure there'll be a second reaction to the speech. There always is from the Democrats and from the Trump supporters. And nowadays, all I can tell you is who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? Because when I wake up in the morning and I'm told things, I say, that can't be possible. It can't be possible. America's not like that. Well, we're going to change it, and America is going to be America again. It isn't right now. Well, pray for the people of Israel. Pray for the people of the United States. And God bless America. Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,